Hello, my name is Farhan Chughtai and I'm a final year medical student here at Brighton and Sussex Medical School. At BSMS, I undertook my independent research project in my 4th year. My personal interest lies in acute care, specifically in anaesthetics and intensive care medicine. For that reason, I undertook an independent research project in neonatal intensive care. My project was titled Noradrenaline versus Dopamine for Circulatory Support in the Neonatal Intensive Care Unit. Noradrenaline and dopamine are inotropes or adjuncts that we use to help maintain the heart rate and blood pressure of very unwell neonates in the neonatal intensive care unit. Dopamine is usually the first line, and while it is quite good at its job, we were considering that noradrenaline might be better at its job considering it's the first line in adult ICU, and we know that its vasopressive properties are better than that of dopamine. There were concerns around its safety, causing end organ ischemia due to strong vasoconstriction, but we wanted to conduct this study to make sure that that was actually not the case. So to do this, we conducted a study where we compared 40 neonates on noradrenaline and 40 neonates on dopamine. They were on circulatory support for two main reasons, and that was either persistent pulmonary hypertension of the newborn or neonatal sepsis. We measured various parameters. This included clinical parameters and hemodynamic parameters. The hemodynamic parameters that we measured were systolic blood pressure, diastolic blood pressure, mean arterial pressure, and heart rate. And the clinical parameters included were respiratory outcomes and renal outcomes, as we know that these inotropes can cause adverse events on both of those. We actually found that noradrenaline is not only better at achieving normal tension than dopamine in terms of blood pressure itself, but we also found that it is quicker at achieving normal tension compared to dopamine. This is important because in things like neonatal sepsis, they're very time critical, so achieving normal tension quicker is a very important thing. We also found that there were no significant difference in the clinical adverse events on both inotropes. While our study was limited as a retrospective cohort study, there's also not many different types of study that we can do in neonatal intensive care due to ethical issues associated with neonatal experimentation. Nonetheless, the results of our study were promising, and we decided to take this to a conference. I was blessed to have the opportunity to present my findings at an international pediatric conference in Vienna. This was the European Academy of Pediatric Society conference, and this was their 17th Congress. Myself and my supervisor went there for the weekend and we attended the conference. Not only was it an amazing opportunity to present my findings as a poster presentation, but it was also an amazing opportunity to meet different pediatricians from around the world and see how practice differs around the world. This includes countries where they may be less economically developed or more economically developed, and also seeing the differences between healthcare systems that are paid and private versus the NHS. I had a really good time at the conference, and I strongly recommend if you can get your data published and presented in a conference, it would be an amazing opportunity. We are looking to get our paper published within an American pediatric journal. We hope to change the scope of neonatal intensive care practice with these guidelines and demonstrate that noradrenaline is in fact safe to use in neonatal intensive care with good outcomes. I did learn many things from this study, specifically about neonatal intensive care itself, but in terms of research, just knowing the many different things that you have to be careful of when collecting your data. Once we actually got to crunching the numbers, we then realized our mistakes and then we went back and fixed them. And then we found the results that we had anticipated. In neonatal intensive care and intensive care in general, it's really important to be aware of a lot of the parameters that you're measuring. When using different medications, you want to be able to treat the condition that you are treating without causing any other problems. Sadly, risking other organs is quite common in intensive care, and we are all striving forward to try and make sure that this doesn't happen in the future. I'm hopeful that my study aids in revolutionizing neonatal intensive care. For the BSMS IRP, I strongly recommend doing it in a subject that you are interested in, as you will get more out of it than if it was a subject that you were not interested in. Do strive to get it presented at a conference. It looked very good on CVs, and it'd be really nice to have a paper out of it as well. Thank you for watching my video. If you would like to know more about the independent research project, you can find out more information about it on the BSMS website.